Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Puranamurina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amritvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramaruta Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramo Parishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Okay. Let us chant verses 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So 8 through 12 of the 6th chapter. Number 8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriyaha Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtashma Kanchanaha Samaloshtashma Kanchanaha Suhrin Mitrardvidasinam Suhrin Mityardasinam Adhyasthadveshcha Bandhushu Adhyasthadveshcha Bandhushu Sadhushva apicha papeshu Sadhushva cha papeshu Samabuddhir vishishyate Samabuddhir vishishyate Yogi yunjita satatatman Yogi yunjita satatam Yogi yunjita satatam Atmanam rahasi sthitaha Atmanam rahasi sthitaha Ekaki yata chittatma Ekaki yata chittatma Nirashir aparigraha Nirashir aparigraha Shuchau deshe pratisthapya Shuchau deshe pratisthapya Sthiramana samatmanaha Sthiramana samatmanaha Natyuchittam natishecham Nauchittam natishecham Chailajina kushottaram Chailajina suyottaram Tatraikagram manaf kritva Tatraikagram manaf kritva Yata chittendriya kriyaha Yata chittendriya kriyaha Upavishyasane yunjyat Upavishyasane yunjyat Yogamatma vishuddhaye Yogamatma vishuddhaye. So the 6th chapter, as you know, is involved with meditation. So here meditation means that this should be understood that this is what we were discussing in the earlier class also. So meditation or nididhyasanam means appreciating myself, the value of myself a correct appreciation. I don't appreciate it. Is the thing. Even when first of all, I don't know what I have, what I am, and even when I'm told, I'm not warming up, I haven't warmed up to it yet. I haven't really quite appreciated that. So there is a reason for it. Everything should be seen as very structured. This is exactly how it is. That first you are introduced to it. I mean, this is an amazing thing. How can I not see myself as I should? How is that possible? This is an interesting, very, very interesting discussion and a very interesting concept that occurs. It just occurred to me. I'll just present that. Because you find that there are lots of schools of thought who say that what you say doesn't make any sense. And what do we say? What we say is that our nature is that of complete freedom. And what they say is that this doesn't make any sense. You cannot be already free. You should always have something that you aspire to. You cannot say, I am already there. That doesn't make any sense. So we say, why not? And they say, listen, if you say that you are unlimitedly happy, that's what you say, don't you? We said, yes, this is what we say. If you say you are unlimitedly happy, that means that you are the very nature of happiness. Then how can you be unhappy? Both things cannot be at the same time. Like, for example, it is argued that you cannot say that light and darkness can coexist. You cannot say that. That's not our experience. It doesn't make any sense. Either there is darkness or there is light, one or the other. You cannot have both at the same time. So similarly, you cannot say that I am totally happy, and at the same time you cannot say I'm unhappy. So what do you have to say about that? Explain that. So this is all I'm just telling you. This is how the Shastra explains. And this is an important thing to see. They say, you try it, and you find that this is in fact the case. And what do you mean by you try it and so on? So this is the understanding of the Maya Shakti of Ishvara, which many of the other schools of thought don't accept that. They feel this Maya Shakti is just a excuse for you to do all of this. We said, no, we are not doing anything. And by the way, we are not asking you, we are not proselytizing, you don't have to accept it. But we are telling you that this is a fact, that something, you're right from a standpoint of pure logic. We agree with you that happiness and unhappiness can, either you are totally happy or you are unhappy. You cannot have both, but you do. And it is due to the Maya Shakti. The Maya Shakti means it is, in fact there is a definition to this, we will perhaps read it in Sanskritam, there is a definition of Maya. Aghatitita ghatinam, aghatita patasi, aghatita patanam patayasi Maya. It means that Maya makes things happen that cannot happen. That's the English translation. It is possible. Amazing. It is possible. Now, in the case of the light and darkness, because it is in the vyavahara, in the realm of vyavahara sat, there we say that the two cannot coexist. But in paramarthika satyam, it is possible that you are totally happy but you don't realize it. And there are examples of that also in the 10th man example. If you're missing something, in other words, if you don't, so the whole Srishti is in the form of non-understanding. The truth is not interrupted, the truth is not violated. It's just that if you don't understand something, then you can have an opposite viewpoint. So therefore we say that this is in fact really the truth, and you don't at first get it. But if you just do slowly understand, followed by meditation, you can see it for yourself. Oh my goodness, I missed something about myself. So meditation, as we saw in the earlier class also, for those of you that were there, is really, truly speaking, an appreciation for the beauty and the enormity of the self. And this also is recommended in form of a structured way of looking at it. You do one thing at a time. So this whole chapter is to give you this structure on how do you appreciate yourself. It's not as though we just leave it to yourself and say, I don't know, you figure it out. It's not like that. In fact, it is given in a very structured way. So that being the case, the structure is now being presented in this chapter, and we saw that it has two basic stages. This appreciation of the self has two phases. I wouldn't say stages or stages either. One is called Bahiranga Sadhana, and one is called Antaranga Sadhana. So, this is what is called Bahiranga Sadhana, means the general background that you need to have before this will become effective for you. So we already saw all of that. It had 4 different ones, if you remember. So they had to do with samanya, so not getting too upset about things. This is one. Then we went through the other 4 of them. I won't repeat all of that. So this is what is called Bahiranga Sadhana. Then it culminated verse number 8. The Bahiranga Sadhana means the outside sadhana. And by the way, the distinction between Bahiranga Sadhana and Antaranga Sadhana, there is another distinction, which is this. Bahiranga Sadhana means the outer sadhana. It should be there throughout. The Antaranga Sadhana, which we will do today, should be there just before meditation. It's a special karana. Whereas the Bahiranga Sadhana is the normal karana throughout the day. This is what it is. So number 8, verse number 8 finishes, in fact number 9 finishes with Bahiranga Sadhana. So there it says, we already did this, I'm just repeating myself. In fact, number 9, let's look at number 9. I think we did number 8 already. Number 9, Sruhin Mitra Udasinam Madhyastheshu Bandhushu Sadhushu Apicha Papeshu Samabuddhi Vishishyate. So Bahiranga Sadhana says that you need to have a buddhi where you focus on the sameness in people, sameness in situation, rather differences in people and differences in situations. This was our main topic in the Mandukya Upanishad. We already did quite a bit of that, but I'll summarize it for you. It says, please see that there is an underlying unity amongst all situations that you confront, even though they look very different to you. So here, I'll just give you the English translation of this verse number 9. The one whose vision is the same with reference to a benefactor, a friend, an enemy, an acquaintance, an arbitrator, a relative, a person who evokes dislike, good people, and even towards sinner, that is what one should aspire to. This is what we need to do. And there is a truth behind all this, because the underlying content of all of these people is the same. Here a beautiful example is given in Shankara's Viveka Chudamani. When Viveka Chudamani, this thing comes up, it says the example of sandalwood. So the sandalwood is a very beautiful wood, as you know. It just has a beautiful aroma to it. Amazing. Very pure, very satisfying, very peaceful. But it is said that if you put the sandalwood in water for a length of time, then it acquires on the surface a deterioration of the wood, and this deteriorated surface of the sandalwood is bad smelling. You can't stand it. It's really awful smell. Just the opposite of it. Like, for example, rose is a very beautiful flower, but it has the sharpest thorns. If you don't handle it very well, you can actually get hurt. Similarly, the sandalwood, which is intrinsically very beautiful, has an outer layer, which if you don't remove, can smell awful. It's kind of like a muck on it. So it is in Viveka Chudamani, it says that really the people that you confront, situations that you confront, people who are not friendly to you, who criticize you, people who are cheat or who are friendly, they all have the same core, but their degree of muck is all different. And here, this is an interesting thing. I think this is something that we should see. When I don't distinguish between the sandalwood that people are and the muck that they are surrounded by, the same thing happens on my self-evaluation. This is an important thing to see. You see, so one can argue that, wait a second, I am more concerned about transacting with people, and therefore I don't care about what they really, how pure they are, because that's not how they behave with me. I'm much more concerned about their behavior towards me. That means, you know what it really means in terms of our example? I am much more concerned about the muck than the sandalwood. Don't give me all this thing about sandalwood, etc., that they are pure and their hearts are pure, because that's not how they behave with me. This is my answer, and my objection to this. And the harm of this thinking. So there are two aspects to this thinking. One is your behavior toward others. And you are saying that please be nice to people. Forgive them. They're bothering you and so on and so forth. But overlook it. Somehow, don't be mad at them. It's okay. This is one thing. Do you know the most harmful aspect of my attitude towards this? Is the attitude towards myself. Why? Because if I am fixated on the muck rather than the content, I'm also fixated on my muck. See, this is the real harm that I have. That I only look at myself in terms of my behavior, my outer shell, my muck, so to speak, which is the recipient of the muck, my likes, dislikes, etc., as opposed to my own beauty. And if I cannot see the beauty in others, I cannot see the beauty about myself. This is the real harm. So it is not as though you just need to be kind to the others and so on and so forth. You need to be kind to yourself. And you cannot be kind to yourself until you become into the habit of seeing that this sandalwood is still as beautiful, but there is a muck behind it. And let them take care of the muck, but you take care of your own muck. This is the real beauty about this thinking. Paramarthananda, just to continue with this aspect of it, is that he gave a couple of different aspects of looking at this. So one is that if you do not see the oneness in people, that there is really the same Brahman, same Ishvara in all of them, you're not looking at the truth. So from a purist standpoint also, you're dealing with untruth. Okay? And again, I would say this is the same type of explanation which goes into your relationship with the world rather than your relationship with yourself. So if you don't see the beauty in others, as I said, you're not going to see the beauty about yourself. So this is one thing. The second thing which he pointed out very beautifully is in terms of the psychological impact on yourself. Similar to the first one, but with a particular emphasis which I'll now describe. He says that if you look at your likes and dislikes, the raga dvesha, this is what we are, if you look at your life, you find it's full of pravritti and nivritti. You go towards some things and you withdraw from other things. I want to avoid these situations and I want to go towards this situation. This is what life is all about. Raga dvesha. likes and dislikes. He says that look at it from this standpoint. Raga Dvesha makes you a prisoner, a dependent person, because you cannot stand a situation. That means that the situation is actually capturing you in a situation. You cannot say that I want the situation to go away. Until then, you are a prisoner of that situation. Instead, this is what Swami Dayananji used to say all the time. In fact, this was his most important. He says that please be free of raga dvesha. Why? Not because you are doing any favors to anyone. You are doing disfavor to yourself. If you become accepting, you become free. Things don't capture you, they don't imprison you. And you're free from it. So it is not as though you need to do any favor for anyone. You are not doing favor to yourself. This is the most important aspect of this. So this is what this meditation, the very preparation for the meditation, the Bahiranga Sadhana, is how do we appreciate my own beauty, my own enormity, my own value. How do I do that? Because I don't seem to do that. There is a structure to it. This is what is the Bahiranga Sadhana is, and I won't go into all the details about it. But as we were discussing in the earlier class also, what this does is it softens your approach towards life. And what we were already discussing is that ultimately you should see things as interesting. How interesting this is, as opposed to becoming a major problem for you. If you can soften your thinking towards that, you are well underway to understand the beauty of yourself. This is what the Bahiranga Sadhana is all about, and this ends with verse number 9. Now we go to the second phase, which is called Antaranga Sadhana. And here Swami Paramarthananda pointed out that Sri Krishna is suspending the Bahiranga Sadhana and will bring it up again later in this chapter. But for now, he has decided to transition to the Antaranga Sadhana, which is given in verses number 10 through 15. And the Antaranga Sadhana is a special preparation just before you decide to meditate. The outer sadhana is throughout your attitude, how you behave and how your personality is, how you deal with situations and so on. So what it really means is that it will be difficult for you to meditate if you're fighting with things. You are having problems with situations and so on and so forth, and then you say, no, I want to meditate. You're not going to be able to do it. You are just whistling in the dark, if that's what it is. So you first need to have some kind of a balance in your life where you're accepting, you're not harshly in conflict with the outside things. That's an important thing. Then, when you are ready to meditate, there are some specific preparations that you need to do. Those are being described in the Antaranga Sadhana from verses number 10 through 10 through 15. So here, this is very similar to the Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is, we actually accept many of that. Okay, so let us do this. We'll rearrange the verses. As I mentioned before, I think I've decided I'm not going to go through verse by verse with all the, more of a conceptual understanding. We look at the conceptual understanding with the help of our acharyas like Paramarthananda ji and Swami Dayanand ji and so on. This is what their thinking is. If you rearrange the steps of the Antaranga Sadhana, there are actually 8 of them. So let's make a note of that. These are the 8 ones. So one of them is a place for meditation. Desha. Desha. So, in terms of the place for meditation, 2 things should be kept in mind. One is a quiet, remote place. Actually, 3 things. One is a quiet, remote place, and it doesn't mean that it is completely quiet, but relatively quiet. What I find in my home, if you really want a complete quiet place, you cannot find it. In fact, there is a hum of the refrigerator or some fan or something that is always going on. Well, you cannot eliminate that. You cannot find a completely place like this unless you can, you can put your earmuffs or something, but no. So, but a relatively one where people are talking and there is a radio on or television on and so on, no. It should be relatively quiet, number 1. Number 2, you should do meditation alone. This group meditation may have some limited value, but it is not to be done. It should be done by yourself. You may learn meditation in a group, that's a different thing. But ultimately you have to do it on your own. You came into this world by yourself, you're going to go by yourself, and if you wanted to just have some company, then meditation is not the time for doing it. This is what our Shastra tells us, by the way. It's not as though, you get 250 people and you meditate alone and so on and so forth. That may have some value to get started. Ultimately, you have to do your own. That's number 2, about the place. Then the place should also be clean. And also it says that it should be the same place that you frequent. It's not as though this time I'm going to do here, this time you may not be able to do it, but as far as possible, find the same place. Lastly, the place that you are meditating on, if you have pictures that are pleasing to you, Mahatmas, Ishvara, Vigraha, then it is very useful to you. Very useful to you. I do that in my office, in the corner of my office. I have a small temple, and I have Dakshinamurti, and I have all these other devatas, and pictures of a couple of my acharyas, and I light a lamp. I start with my meditation with the presence of these Mahatmas as though I need their help, which I do. And so this is a very useful thing to do. And so this is what is called desha. So one of the 8 steps of meditation is a place. And it should be comfortable and so on and so forth. This is number 1. Then the second one, which Swami Maheswaranji points out, Krishna has not specifically mentioned in these verses, but we can supply that because it is mentioned elsewhere, is kala. Kala means a time. So the second step of the meditation is kala. In kala, what is mentioned is, preferably you should do it early in the morning. What is the reason for that? Because your natural gift from Ishvara is a repairing of your frazzled nerves by sleep. It's a gift of Ishvara, that whatever happens in the previous day, you accumulate things and so on, you reset with the sleep, and hopefully you'll get a reasonable sleep. Sometimes you're not well and you don't sleep well, those are all exceptions. But generally speaking, after sleep, some of the damaged nerves, frayed nerves are repaired, and you're a little bit more calm with yourself. In fact, Sattva Guna is most prominent in the morning. So Sattva Guna means the ability to be peaceful and to inquire is Sattva Guna. So the morning is the best time. In fact, many of our teachings, not always, but generally possible, whenever, Upanishads are taught in the morning. Not any other times of the day. If it's not possible, then you do it at other parts of the day, but preferably in the morning. And so the kala means a time, and it should be done in the morning, number 1. Secondly, the duration of the meditation, also with respect to time. Most important thing here is not to overdo it. Because so here the quality rather than quantity is to be considered. If you continue to do it for a long time, that means, if you try to do meditation for a long time without really understanding the very basic of it, then you are forcing it. And it is not very useful. I remember we used to have a student in our class in Piercy who was very fond of meditating. And he was always will come to Swamiji and he says, Swamiji, how many times should I meditate during the day and so on. And though I used to listen to their dialogue, I still remember in the satsang. And Swamiji used to say, please, Jim, her name was Jim, don't overdo it. You have a life to live. It is more important that you have a quality of meditation early in the morning, and then you carry the thoughts during the day, but you transact during the day. Instead of just sitting there doing nothing, you become relatively more useless anyway. because that means you're not earning any money, you're not helping anybody. And so don't overdo it. I still remember those advice. And so the quality of meditation is important rather than the quantity of it. So this is another advice that Swami Paramarthananda makes the same point with respect to that. Okay, so that's also there. Then the third aspect of meditation is asanam, is the posture. And by the way, in terms of the Patanjali, they're very similar. So yama, niyama, and so on. So yama, niyama corresponds to bahiranga sadhana. That means that from an outer standpoint, you need to have a certain sameness to your life, a certain softness to your life. And so your character and your dealings with people and all of that goes into preparation. Then comes asana. So in asana, few things to keep in mind. One is that it should be in a sitting posture. Not standing, not lying down, not walking. So this is discussed in the Brahma Sutras. There is actually, Badarayana gives the sutras, that really the sitting is the way to go. So do this. You can either do it cross-legged on the floor or sit on the chair, that doesn't matter. But sitting is an important one. And as we have seen in our introductions ourselves, the sitting should be done in a manner. The most important one is you should be comfortable in meditation without moving your limbs for the duration of the meditation. Meditation could be for 20 minutes, half hour, 15 minutes, that's a different thing. But during the duration of the meditation, you should not have to move your body, because that means that your body is bothering you. And so part of the asana is to make sure that any tight-fitting clothes, belts, and so on are loosened up, so they are not obstructing you while you're sitting down. Number one. Another one is that it should be comfortable but not leaning so that you become sleepy. That's another thing that we have is another very beautiful advice. Really, I don't follow it as much, but I think in general it's a very good advice. So here are the two issues with meditation. One is that you have outside things impinging on you. You're not able to get away from it. So supposing you have your eyes open, and then you're watching things that are going on, and they have to affect you. Now here's the issue. If you close your eyes, you don't have outside things affecting you, but you can go to sleep. Why? Because the whole system of sleep depends upon your eyes being closed. So as soon as you close your eyes, the whole system says, I think it's time to go to sleep. And then you have a tendency to go to sleep. So therefore, a very good advice given in the Gita is to keep your eyes half closed and half open. And they say, I don't follow this because I don't have that many issues in falling asleep. Occasionally I might, but I'm better off just keeping my eyes closed. But if you have any difficulty in going to sleep during meditation, then the advice by Sri Krishna is that you keep your eyes half open and half open. What do you mean by half open? That means you simply open your eyes a little bit, but not look at the scene in front of you. and perhaps just look at the tip of your nose, which doesn't change, hopefully. Your nose remains the same. It is still open, your eyes are still open, but you're not affected by the changing scene in front of you. This is a good advice, I think, in general, for people that feel sleepy. That you just slowly open the eyes and just look at one thing. You could even have some flame in front of you if you want. So this is all part of asana, posture. So in summary, the posture should be stable with maximum base, so you don't have to move. It should be straight. In fact, the neck, the back and the head, etc. should be relatively in a straight line. I also find that I don't always do that. I'm very comfortable, for example, sometimes just since I don't tend to go to sleep, then I can just be comfortable, and sometimes my head would, I find myself, my head drops a little bit. But once you get skilled in meditation, then the other things fall off, really. Whether you are doing like this or not doing that doesn't matter. But in the beginning, it is good to have a straight posture where your back is not leaning towards the back of the chair. You're just sitting up like this, and your eyes are half closed, and then you can meditate. So that is all the things that we need to talk about in terms of asana. So here Swami Paramarthananda has differentiated between asanam and posture. So that's, in fact, if you want to make a note of that. So the first one was desha, the second one was kala, the third one is purely in terms of whether you should be sitting or not, that's all. That's number 3. And then I think the other aspects we talked about in terms of posture, stability, straightness, opening the eyes, etc., can be taken as number 4, which is posture. Or you can combine these two, it doesn't really matter as much. Okay, so that's that. Number 5 in this one is what is called prana samyam. So this is pranayama, prana samyam. The prana, the emphasis on breathing is important because the two Shaktis of Ishvara, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti, are intertwined. They are intertwined in the sense they always affect each other. You know, I was just thinking about it. There's a terminology which says breathtaking. You know, this is often described for Yosemite. And really it's true. You go to Yosemite and the beauty of Yosemite is breathtaking. You know what it really means? That you have a natural breathing, and the sight of Yosemite can arrest your breathing for a minute. You don't even have time to breathe. You are so taken in by the beauty of it. Anyway, what it generally means is that breathing and knowledge. So breathing is a Kriya Shakti. It's a Kriya Shakti. And knowledge is a Jnana Shakti, but the two are intertwined. And in fact, this is what happens when you, for some reason, become tense. Then your breathing is affected. We remember there's a father of a friend of mine. He was a publisher of a magazine in Bombay. He's a very successful person. And so we were having dinner with him one time, a number of years ago, or 20 years ago. And he says, there is one habit that my guru taught me, which I have never forgotten. He says, every hour on the dot, I close my eyes and do pranayama for a minute or two. He says, that has really served me so well. And what it means is, so this is what is called prana samyam. Prana samyam means that your breathing in and out is the same, and a lengthy ones, not just small portion, but just have a very deep breathing on both sides of it. And another aspect of yoga which is also very useful is to do diaphragmatic breathing. So diaphragmatic breathing would mean that normally your chest, the upper part of your chest, is the normal breathing for air in and out. But then the diaphragmatic breathing means that you also involve the lower part of your torso, which involves the stomach. And both of them take the air in. This is done very consciously because normally you don't do this. And you also exhaust both of them at the same time. And especially, in fact, you need to focus on the tummy because the upper part will take care of itself. So if you just do, in fact, I'm in the habit of doing this all the time. Even when I am doing exercise on the treadmill or on the elliptical machine, that I'm trying to breathe through the lower part of my diaphragm. And that becomes a useful thing to do. And so the prana samyam is also a good part of the meditation. And here Swami Paramarthananda makes a very good point. He says, these are different legs of a stool, which is prana shakti, jnana shakti, kriya shakti. If you control one of them, you also control the others along with it. It's a good point to do. So prana samyam, and in fact, this is one of the things that happens is that if you are tense for any reason, if there is something bothers you, you just concentrate on breathing. Close your eyes and just breathe. And you find that really you can recover from the tenseness very quickly. So number 5 was the prana shakti, prana samyam. Then the indriya nigraha is number 6. Indriya nigraha means a control over your sense organs. And a control meaning, really speaking, independence from each one of them. Like for instance, sometimes you have, supposing you are in a room where there is a television with the sound on. You have the ability to disregard the sound from the TV and just be on your own. It's very possible. Or you can be very bothered by it. You can say, please shut that TV off because I'm reading a book. And so if you have to do it, you're fine. But the better thing will be that you just, unless there is a huge amount of music going on or something, which you cannot disregard. But if there's some background stuff that goes on, then you just disregard it. You just focus on your own thoughts. This is a great thing that I learned from Swami Dayanand Ji. I must say that. And you can see in my own, I find, I never tell people to please shut off your cell phones. I'm not bothered by people coming in late or going early or walking around. It doesn't, it's all part of it. You know, I'm not focused on it at all. I just have some things to do and I just am focused on that. So this is what is Indriya Nigraha means. You're not dependent on what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. Everything is all different and you're not bothered by it. You begin to have some independence from each one of them. So this is number 6. Then the number 7 is Mano Nigraha. Mano Nigraha means an independence from all thoughts and relationships. So one thing I wanted to see, I wanted to go over the Patanjali's so as part of this or even associated with this, as you know, the Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. Okay? So there Patanjali focuses on this word called Pratyahara. Very interesting. So let's discuss that for a second. Pratyahara means giving up of possessions. One second, I just want to see something. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a word that comes in. I'm not focusing on the verses, but there is a word here. Yeah, if you look at verse number 10. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sthitaha ekaki yatachittatma nirashi aparigraha. So parigraha means in a sense of non-possession. Non-possession, so in fact, the Adi Shankara translates aparigraha as sannyasa. Sannyasa, parigraha, and also the pratyahara. These are all very similar. Excuse me. So what it means is, the more you have a simple life, the better off your meditation will be. Simple life means whatever you need for your life's comfort, please go for that. That's important. But beyond that, to accumulate things creates a sense of protection, fear unnecessary worry. So, the simplicity of life means that the bare minimum is enough for you to be comfortable. And a complicated life means that you are actually the victim. You think that I am doing a lot of things and I gotta do a lot of things and so on. You are in fact doing yourself a disfavor. Just like we saw in the Raga Dvesha also. So you have to you become wiser. No one is saying that you should not go for wealth or friendship or all these kinds of things. That's not what is being said here at all. But have a sense of not making it too complicated, just having a simple enough life. That's enough. The problem people have, if they don't know this, is that the more friends I have, the more money I have, the better off I will be. This is the thinking. When in fact this is just the opposite. The more you get involved with it. So in going back to Manonigraha, where was it? Number 7 I think it was. So the Manonigraha means that the way you think should be that the mind doesn't enclose you. You tell the mind, this is what I want you to do. Now stop it. Do not bother me. Okay? I am not you. You are my slave. I am not your slave. Swami Chinmayananda had given this lovely example. I've never forgotten that. In fact, I've seen the same example in various ways. So the example is that you pray to, so there was this person who prayed to Ishvara and said, Ishvara, can you give me a genie that will do anything that I want it to do? And Ishvara said, genies are very difficult to control and you don't want that really, they're very powerful things. He says, no, I want a genie. I'm praying to you. I want a genie. Whatever I want to do, it can just do immediately. Ishvara said, okay, I'll give it to you. I don't think that's the right thing, but okay, fine, if you want it. But he says, by the way, you should know one thing. The nature of the genie is that it will do what it needs to be busy. So whatever you ask it to do, it will do it. But if you don't keep it busy, it will eat you up. Is that understood? So the fellow said, oh yeah, no problems. Absolutely. So Ishvara gave him the genie. And he forgot about this part. Because he told him, okay, the genie says, what do you want me to do? He says, okay, just get me some food. So he says, no problems. He got him the food. Okay, next. He says, oh, I forgot to tell him, that's right. Okay, clean my car. So he's cleaning the car and so on. He says, after a while the fellow he says, I cannot just keep on giving him instructions. I've got to have a life of my own. He says, what have I done? I've made a big mistake. So he told the genie, can you please, I'm going to go to your master. He went to Ishvara and said, Ishvara said, I knew you were coming back to me. I told you you don't want this. So he says, there's some way can I do this? He says, okay. There's another way I can help you. You get the genie back, and I have an advice for you. You have a pole, just have a pole on your garden, and tell the genie, when you have nothing else to do, just go up and down this pole. Okay, and don't stop. And as soon as you have something else to do, evening meal, he says, get off that pole and go to to do this. And then go back to the pole and go up and down. He says, sir, thank you so much. That is wonderful. do you know our mind is that genie? That is the genie. Because our mind says, okay, let's do it. You would tell your mind, okay, I want this now. And the mind says, sure, okay, let's do it. And then you say, okay, that is done. So after that, the mind says, what else? Anything else? He says, no, I don't want you to be quiet. And he says, no, I don't know how to be quiet. You've told me to do this all the time. This has become my nature, and I cannot do this. So then, by the way, you forgot to do this. So the mind starts to criticize you. And it starts to find faults with you. So the very thing which is your instrument is now turning against you. And you start to feel bad about it. Yeah, you're right. I didn't do this. I shouldn't have done that. And you should avoid the company of that person. Do this, and so on and so forth. You go crazy. Instead, the mano nigraha means you tell the genie, your mind, I want you to be accomplishing the following things. And after that, just stop bothering me. I don't need you. I am just focusing on some meditation. You can do whatever you want to, just go up and down. And in fact, they say that doing japa is a very beautiful way to train the genie to just go up and down and not do anything. Just say, Om Namah Shivaya. Your mind also says, Om Namah Shivaya. Keep doing it. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. You get into you train the genie to be just doing up and down like this. And then you say, okay, now it's time to do something else. Then go back to it. So they say japa is also a very useful thing. All with respect to mano nigraha. Number 7 of the meditation. Then number 8, which is buddhi nigraha, the last one. Buddhi nigraha. Nigraha, in fact, buddhi nishchaya, not nigraha. Nigraha means a control. Indriya nigraha, mano nigraha. But buddhi nishchaya is used. This is the last one. What does this mean? It means a conviction regarding the necessity of self-knowledge and meditation. Be convinced that this is the right thing to do, that this is really useful in a way to find the sandalwood behind the muck. So for example, supposing a person doesn't know that the muck is only on the surface and the content of the muck is really beautiful sandalwood. If you don't know it, you only stay on the surface of the muck. But if a person knows that this can be easily removed, it takes some work, yes. The more the muck is, the longer time it would take, but eventually you will reach a sense of beauty and peace. This is called buddhi nishchaya. Another way to look at this very beautiful thing, and we all practice this if you know some of the meditations we have done. So this is what is called sankalpa. In the time of meditation, you do a sankalpa. Sankalpa means, in this context, it can mean different things in different contexts, but in this context, sankalpa means telling your mind listen, the entire day I am focusing on my personality. Personality means relationships. What am I supposed to do? What should I not do? You always have some connection with something. This is the personality. In a way, kind of like as we have discussed it, you have a role in a play. Different acts of the play. In this act, this is how you're supposed to behave. You're supposed to be very angry in this role. In this role, you're supposed to be happy. So this is the personality. But the personality by nature is of a person. So with this distinction between personality and person, the sankalpa is to your mind to say, listen, the entire day I am involved with personality. Meaning I am involved with role playing. And I understand that. You know, I have daughters and sons and spouses and so on and so forth. They all require a certain role on my part. And there are rules to the role. Like, for example, supposing you come home from the office and there were a lot of upsetting things in the office, and you're disturbed by it, and you have a certain, and it's appropriate that you were disturbed at things at the office. You talk to someone and say, this is not right, you should have done whatever. Now you come home and you have a wife and a husband and some children. It is much better, in fact it is almost required, that you now switch over to a different role. They are not the ones who created the problems for you, and in fact if you continue to be angry, you will bleed into a different role and create a lot of problems for yourself. So it is much better to just leave your problems at the office and continue the next day there. So these are all the issues with respect to your personality. Now the real question is, who is the person who's playing the role? Who is the real? These are acting. Who is the person who's acting? So the sankalpa is to your mind. When you meditate, this is what is called buddhi nishchaya. The last part is to say, listen, let's be very clear. In this 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, I am not involved in playing roles. Is that clear to you, O mind? I am investigating the person. And the person is the core, which is the sandalwood. And if you give instructions to your mind, it is more likely to obey it. Otherwise, it will say, you never made it clear to me. You didn't say that. This is what happens sometimes if we say, people will say, well, you never made it clear this is what you wanted to do. That's exactly right. It gets all mixed up. Personality and person are all the same. But a really good actor is the one who plays the role very well. And yet understands exactly what the person is. I don't know if I gave you this funny example that Swami Maheshananji gave. Really, when I first heard that, I was laughing at it. He said, there is a play, the script of a play. And the script of the play is that you're supposed to behave in a certain way. And the good actors are the one who really follow the script of a play very well. You didn't write the script. You were drafted to play a role in the play. You were drafted. They did an interview and you won out and they said, okay, you're the right person for this role. So there was a role for this person, and the role was that he's supposed to drive a car and really drive the car very well, very fast. So they tested him and he says, are you a race driver? He says, oh, I've driven Ferraris and all this. He says, you're the right person. And you needs to be a big person with, and you have to play the role of a policeman who's driving a police car. So he says, very clear, very clear. Okay. So here is the script. The script is that there is somebody who robbed a woman in the parking lot. And she called 911, and you are now appearing on the scene. And this fellow gets into the car and you're supposed to chase this guy. Is that clear? He says, yes, absolutely. And there's traffic weaving in and out and so on and so forth. You got to keep at it. And the role is in the movie that in the end, you cannot catch him. He escapes from you. But you've got to take the right risks and so on and so forth, and you've got to drive very fast. The fellow says, okay, I got it. Then the movie shoots, and this person is not driving that fast. Instead of driving at 90 miles per hour, he's driving at 60. So the director and they say, what happened? Didn't we ask you to do this? He says, I don't understand. Didn't the script say that I'll never catch him? He says, yes. So why should I drive fast? Because, the script says they'll never catch him. And I think it's stupid of me to take my own life in danger and so on and so forth. There are other people who are driving. I said, forget it, I'm not going to do that. He'll never get another role for the rest of my life. So a role is a role that has to be played well. And a distinguishing between the person and the personality is most important. So therefore, buddhi nishchaya means a clear distinction. What is a role, what is not a role, is also the last step of the meditation. So with that, what I'm going to do is not go through each one of these verses specifically. I think you may want to just read it on your own. In the interest of time, as I mentioned, that I'm not going to, but I am going to focus in on the important verses. I may actually quickly go through that next time, but not spend as much time with it. But this is the preparation for an appreciation of the self. Why is it that I don't appreciate who I am? And what steps do I need to take in order for this? So we'll continue with this for next week. Om asato ma satkamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Questions? We have a little bit of time. Yeah.
So, what exactly do you do during the meditation? Is it silence of the mind, or are you contemplating?
No, you actually you focus on some concept that you should appreciate. We looked at it. One example of that in the Mandukya was, we did the meditation this morning in that class, where it was Swatasiddhatvam, that I am self-existing. So what does self-existence mean? What is the implication of that? What is the enormity of that? It's something that you meditate on. But you do it in a way where, without putting a lot of pressure on yourself, you are just focused on that aspect of it. And unrelated things that come in, you don't look at that. That's what it is. This is what is called Nididhyasanam, or Vedantic meditation. Yeah.
My understanding of the difference between meditation and Nididhyasana, with meditation you are focusing on a pratik or pratima,
Yeah.
while in Nididhyasana you are trying to see the reality of yourself. Correct me if I misunderstood.
So the question is, for those of you that hear, that his understanding is that the difference between dhyanam and nididhyasanam is that in dhyanam you are quietening your mind. What were the words you used for
So
that?
focus on either pratima or pratika.
You're focusing on either a pratima or a pratika, just a kind of like a formful thing. And in nididhyasanam, you are focusing on the reality of yourself. So that was his question. So I think that's close to what it is, but perhaps a little more clear about this. So dhyanam and nididhyasanam, we've all talked about this, I think, in our Tuesday night class also, but it doesn't matter in this context. The dhyanam means, I'm talking about for a student of Vedanta, making a distinction between dhyanam and nididhyasanam in the context of a student of Vedanta. This is what we're talking about. Student of Vedanta means that the end result is an understanding of who I am, what's happening, what am I all about, where am I going, all that. And this is what the student of Vedanta means. Not a person who says that a non-student of Vedanta, one who says that I need a better job of transacting in this world. I've got a job, I see this all the time, where a CEO will say, I've got such a stressful life that I'd like to meditate in the morning so I'm prepared for it. This is a different thing altogether. He's not worried, he or she is not worried about but from a Vedantic standpoint, so in that context, the distinction between a dhyanam and nididhyasam is as follows. Dhyana means two aspects. One is preparing for nididhyasanam, and the other one is learning. So really all of that is preparation. Is learning about the self which is not clear to me. So Shravanam and Mananam are not complete. But I don't do Shravanam and Mananam in a non-controlled manner, and I need to do it in a controlled manner. So, but it's not clear to me what the self is. This, by the way, is mostly the student's life. I would say 90% of dhyanam is a way for me. In fact, when one is listening to something in in the class. Supposing the teacher is explaining what the all thing is all about. That is dhyanam. That is dhyanam, because you are focused, just like you're reading a book. When you're reading a book, you're not doing other things, that is dhyanam. But you are accomplishing something, you're reading something. So this is the dhyanam. Nididhyasanam means what you are learning about is pretty clear to you already. But it is still not as fruitful to you as it should be. The advantage of the clarity needs to be enhanced, but it is pretty much clear. So in terms of the distinction for a Vedantic student, dhyana means still learning. Nididhyasa means already learned but practicing it. That's how we look at it from both directions. Okay, we'll see you next Saturday.